one of the things that I realized with so many people being added to the team, especially with one or two heads popping in every week, we're all in different various states of understanding of the product roadmap and what we're trying to build. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. One, obviously things are changing and evolving in real time, which is hard to keep up with. Two, we've had just different conversations with different groups of people, and not everyone has been all on the same page. And lastly, we've lacked product managers to put pen to paper and fully document a lot of these individual products. So in a perfect world, we start building an idea for a product, start doing an outline for it, put together a requirements document, and fully flesh it out there so that as questions come up, we'll always have reference documents to go back to and chat about. But that said, I was really excited to put this all on paper because I wanted to see how all of these things interconnect with each other. Like, what are we actually trying to build towards? And I get up every morning being super excited about what we're trying to build, just because the vision's in my head. And I know it's a lot in Justin's head and to varying degrees for the rest of you. But I thought it'd be great just for me to develop this doc so that you have a sense of just everything that's on the table. And it's not to say that this is a final doc, let's go build this. But I think it's good to understand the interconnecting pieces and then use this as a jumping off point to have future conversations about the more nuanced details around each of these individual products and let them fight for why they should or should not exist, different features and functionality within each of these groups. But that said, these are the big verticals that I think about us tackling over the next 6 to 12 months. And so I figured one of the things that I think is really important to say up front and that we have yet to do, that I want to start working on in the coming weeks, is this overall kind of mission statement and guiding principles about why we exist, who we are, why we do what we do, and really solidifying that as our true north that we can always point to and say, if we are building a product, it is to fulfill this particular mission. And one of the things that I put together just as a placeholder, and we can go into, this will obviously change, but this is just my best back of the napkin placeholder for this right now, is Proof is building Web3 products that celebrate art, connection, and inclusive community. And I think just a couple of things there to pick apart really quickly. When I say celebrate art, I don't just mean our art. One of the things that I really love that sets us apart from a lot of the other organizations out there is the celebration and elevation and lifting up of all artists that are out there. So if we can be this neutral platform that plays well with all of these communities, I think that, especially when it comes to high rise, I think that puts us in a really powerful position. And you'll see how the media arm of that plays into all of that. I loved watching that video that Mal put together where Aaron, you were on there and they were showing off some of the Divergence art, and there was that like kind of zooming in and it was up on the wall. And I just think of that as being like just one beautiful little pocket demo inside the Proof Collective. And I can imagine when we throw our own conference, we're going to see all different types of demos like that and the celebration of different Rails artists and other people that we have in our ecosystem. So that's a really exciting component to me. And then obviously connection, like real meaningful connection between our users. Financially, we would be best served if we had the most turnover. Every time an NFT is sold, we make more money. But it doesn't mean long-term durable community, real connections, and things like nesting encourage people to hold on. And so some of our in real life events will play to this. And some of the things that I have planned that we can talk about in a bit around even smaller trivial things we'll talk about around like a book club and just ways that we can get together and have more frequent conversations and build these bonds that last for many decades to come. And then lastly, but certainly one of the most important things in my mind is it was not lost on me that when we looked around the main Proof party, it was mostly white men. And so a big piece of what we want to fix in this space and what we have an opportunity to fix, because we're just getting started, is including more women, people of color, underrepresented groups. Like that really is not just lip service. It's something that I hold core to me because I know that, and I've been in organizations where that is the case. And when it happens and when it works, it is just really, truly a better environment, more unique perspectives, and it's the right thing to do. And so I'm excited to explore that piece of it. Anyway, that's just an overarching statement. We can modify that and work on that a lot over the next coming weeks and months. So the major arms of what we do, let's take media, the first one here, for example. So media, obviously we started off as a podcast with just the Proof podcast. And the idea there was to focus on projects and artists and give them a voice. And so it was this idea of curation with a point of view. And given that there are so many new projects in the space, we wanted to provide that and allow people to have a trusted resource that they could go to find the best information around NFTs. So I think it's worth reading this small little subdescription here that I put in here. Proof Media gives us a direct line of communication with our audience. Our media division will serve as a platform to elevate artists, educate and entertain our members, and share our product vision. So not only is having a media arm great for other artists, but it's also great for us because anytime we talk about anything new that we're building or we're excited about, people pay attention. And this is that arm that we get to go out and use and leverage to do that. So we're building up an audience of people that care about NFTs, but at the same time, it is our own media organization. So when we drop something, we cast a wide net, pull people in for a variety of different reasons, and then use it as also a marketing channel. So it's just like a brilliant free marketing channel for us. And so how does that break down? How do we think about the future of this? So obviously the Proof podcast being a weekly thing, that is that curation with the point of view. We interview new artists and talk about new projects. We have this new thing called Roundtable that I've been doing with Derek and then a rotating in third guest. And that's also an opportunity to bring Proof analysts into the conversation. So you can imagine we do a new deep dive. We say, hey, Dalton, come in for 15 minutes at the top of the show and talk about your deep dive for this week. So it's a way to pepper in some of our research into our podcast as well, which I think is a great way to also in turn plug what it means to be a part of the Proof Collectives, yet another way of kind of marketing in some of our other products via our media channel there. And then also it establishes Proof as a wide-reaching news organization, not just something that's covering a new artists and new projects, which is important, but it's a variety show. And I've built podcast networks. I built a network called Revision 3. We had 20 or so some shows. We sold it to Discovery. This was over a decade ago. It was one of the first big podcasting networks. And we had a variety of different shows. Some of them were very purpose-built for one topic, and then others were more broad-reaching general talk shows. And I can tell you with certainty that variety shows always bring in a larger audience. If there is a podcast about Xcopy, if you don't care about Xcopy, you don't tune into that podcast. But a variety show where you're talking about 10 or 15 different projects is a great thing to have because there's always something for everyone in there, right? So I'm excited to make sure and hopefully ramp this up to weekly. Right now it's every 2 weeks, but as we get more hosts that can contribute, that would be a good thing. And then I love hosts that come in with their own unique point of view, not just talking heads, but someone that is deeply ingrained in the space and has a point of view that they can bring to the table. And also what this does is it frees me up as well. Like I can't be the only person doing podcasts. I got 1,000 other things going on. So we need to bring in another talent that can come and do some of the heavy lift here. Proof podcast, the Academy. We promised this way back in the day. We haven't done it yet. We did one episode, which was around wallet security. But I think this is great, not evergreen, but close to it type of content where we can have on domain experts that come in and talk about education. So how can we teach people how to use a wallet safely? How can we teach people how to back up their seed phrases, talk about the different options that are out there? There's 1,000 different things. If there's a new layer 2 that people haven't used before, but that's becoming popular, how can we teach them how to traverse and move from layer 1 to layer 2 in a safe way? So this is education for our audience, teaches the latest tech, helps secure our audience. And then it also is just great content too that people will Google and search for, and hopefully we'll have good search results and we'll bring them into our ecosystem and also increase our credibility around being a trusted resource for information. And then lastly, this is more on the deep dives front. We know we want to create these deep dive pieces, and this can come in the form of both a PDF, and if it is content that we can also parlay into a podcast, that would be great as well. So this will be in-depth research reports around a variety of NFT topics, and then some of that report data, if we like, can be used in podcasts. And so in my mind, when I think about some of the blockers and to-dos that we have just for this particular vertical, we need to hire additional podcast talent, hire a director of research, hire additional analysts, and then build out our LA studio. And I'm sure there's probably another 5 things in here I'm forgetting, but that's just placeholder stuff for now. Next up, the Proof Collective. So that obviously everyone knows it's our private 1,000 NFT collectors and artists. What do they receive and what should we be working on for the collective? They obviously receive early access to our podcasts, our deep dive reports. They have private collective functions, which is a private Discord, a private Proof Collective only events that are connected to conferences, and then certain little perks like a Proof Collective lounge at the Proof of Conference event. So a place where they can go, break apart from the crowd, have their own little special space, have their own little special bar, have some breathing room. And if it's a 4,000 persons conference, it's their own little section that is something that's special for them. And then also a place where people can look and say, oh gosh, next year I want to be a member of the Proof Collective. I want to have that special access. So it's always another kind of marketing piece for us as well. So the Proof Collective sit at the very top. They get guaranteed access to our Proof products. It doesn't mean they get free access to all this stuff, because we can talk about that in a bit, but they get guaranteed access. So that means Rails 2, 3, 4, etc. Artist collaborations that Eli is going to be working on. The Moonbirds obviously received 2 Moonbirds. The oddities and that going forward, Project High Rise, and then the Proof of Conference. Definitely on the Proof of Conference, wanting to give them a free pass so that they won't have to pay for that and have access to our annual conference. Proof Collective perks, additional perks would be a small allow list, access and raffles, and then some physical collaborations, ledgers, etc. On the physical collaboration side, this is part of the reason why I've been talking in a lightweight way with engineering about we've developed a system inside of the Moonbirds website that allows for, and I know it's not fully fleshed out yet, but it allows for the delivery of products in some capacity. So you can log in if you're eligible. If you hit a certain nest level, there is a product available for you, and you have a way to click through to a third-party website and claim it. We're collecting things like shipping addresses and whatnot, so we have the ability to drop ship to people if we needed to. We are going to need this information for the Proof Collective. So I don't know if that's inside the Moonbirds website or what that may be, but obviously if, let's say we had a NFT frame, or we have an upcoming ledger is a great example. We have 1,000 ledgers that are being made right now, co-branded with the Proof Collective. How do we get these to these people? How do we provide them with a secure way to access the coupon code that they can use on the Ledger website to get it, right? Anyway, in my mind, the to-dos and blockers for some of this stuff is add Proof Collective NFT support to the Moonbirds website. Do we want to do that? If we did it, add an easy authentication to the Moonbirds website. I know one of the big pain points for all things NFTs is the pain in the ass of busting out a hardware wallet anytime you want to do a simple task. Like to change my icon on OpenSea requires a hardware wallet. That's ridiculous. That's just, there should be a tie to my Google Auth so I can just log in and do anything that's non-transactional, like little modifications. And so that's what I'm hoping we can get to and make that easier and embrace a little bit of Web 2. So that's Proof Collective. So Moonbirds, the backbone of the Proof Army, a utility-enabled PFP with a diverse community, which we aren't there yet, that encourages connection, entrepreneurship. And I put entrepreneurship in there as well, because I think we can really lean into this fact of bird helping bird, like really allowing them to launch new products, new things that they're excited about, whether it has to be Moonbirds related or not, doesn't matter. If there's something really cool that comes up to Amanda and she's like, hey, this is a really cool project. Any cool projects that come up that are community built, how awesome would it be to give them a platform to talk about those with other community members? Be this Y Combinator for Web3, all via Moonbirds and the Proof Collective. I think that would be a really fun thing. So I constantly think about ways that above and beyond just talking about the art around Moonbirds and our future drops, what are ways that we can enable these deep connections and really helping each other out? I encourage us all to think about ways that we can engage with the community. That doesn't mean win airdrop, win utility, more things like that, but just like real meaningful things that we can do to bring people together on a predictable cadence. Just something to think about there. So let's get into the Moonbirds functions. Obviously, private Discord, private Moonbirds only events connected to conferences, nesting benefits, talked about that. And then, of course, they get guaranteed access to future Moonbirds projects. So the oddities and Project High Rise would fall under that as well. This doesn't mean free, it's guaranteed access. Proof of conference. Here, if the Proof Collective receives these for free, the Moonbirds would receive preferred pricing and early access, meaning that this conference is going to sell out. And we do want to let in a lot of the general public, right? But how can we give our Moonbirds first a shot at getting tickets so that they make sure they can actually get in? And then Moonbird perks, we're doing some allow list access and raffles. And then talking about what is the future drop of Moonbirds. How do we expand the diversity of our community? And this is like all collections, like how do we grow the community? And then this could come with a new novel drop mechanic. So I think it's worth touching on this briefly. This is early thinking, but one of the ideas that I had here a few weeks ago, and I shared it with one of our advisors, and he was like, Kevin, drop everything, go build this. You don't understand. When you do this, everyone else is going to copy you. And when I hear stuff like that, that gets me really excited because I forever want Proof to be known as the innovators in the space, even if it's little things. That every time we can do an innovation and something new and it's copied 1,000 times over, that actually is a fantastic thing for our brand and making us, having us being seen as thought leaders. The idea that I had, I think that's just a fascinating experiment, right? The other ideas that's been thrown out there is that, and that moves with the NFT, by the way. So it's really interesting. And it's one that I think a lot of people are going to copy once we come out with it. Anyway, I think it's a really fun drop mechanic to explore. We could apply this to high rise or whatever it may be. People are going to go crazy for this. They're going to love it. I know it's in my core. It's in my gut. I just know people are going to love this. All right. A few other things to get through. So Proof in real life. So Proof in real life creates experiences that facilitate connection, celebrate artists, educate, and entertain our members. So Proof of Conference, what is Proof of Conference? So our annual conference is going to be held in LA, but what does it mean to attend the conference? What does it look like? Is it just a music festival? Is it something else? Is it an education conference? I think we can do something really special here that is unique, that hasn't been done before, that people will actually want to attend. I think we can do a really very interesting big one-track conference that brings in all the best of the things that we love about NFT NYC. And so in my mind, and again, this is not set in stone, day one, we could say is about education, in-depth panels, discussions, bringing on different topics around security or whatever it may be. Day one is the education piece. Day two could be the celebration piece where we have live artist demos. It's all about the artists. We bring in a ton of different artists, ask questions in real time as they walk through doing some of their designs. I think this could be a lot of fun. And then obviously every night we could do, it's all about the social connection and the celebration of art and music. So having artists, very much what you saw with Aaron and Harry and what they did with their live little demo on that video at the Proof Collected meetup, where we have these little stations where artists can be standing there and we'll allow them a place to come and share and talk about their artwork. And you have all the top Art Blocks artists and one-of-one artists and people standing around, where if you're a fan of someone, you walk up and you're like, oh crap, there's Tyler Hobbs. There's Fidenzas up on the wall. Let's go talk about how that process was done. Here's my chance to meet with them, grab a picture with them. I think this could just be a really fun celebration. And again, it's like lifting all boats here. It's about Proof being known as a place that is uniting communities and uniting the industry. And yes, of course, Moonbirds and the things that we do in high rise will be front and center in this, but it's showing that we care more about the industry, not more than about our own projects, but they're on equal footing. And I think that's just going to be a very powerful thing. So then, of course, there's the Proof official meetups, NFT NYC, Art Basel, South by Southwest. Those are all things that we'd like to tack on, fun little meetups around. Blockers, in my mind, we need an in-house events coordinator. It's time to start planning the Proof of Conference, and then we need dates, venues, etc. So we've got a lot of work to do there. Okay, so two more things and then we're done. Project High Rise. And I think we do this in a series of phases. So phase one. So phase two would be, and then phase three is where it gets really interesting. So now we say you can, last thing that I think is really fascinating is this idea of now this is where it gets really freaking cool. And obviously all this stuff is confidential, but this is what I get most excited about. It can be about just social connection and then putting them on our calendar and use that as a way of, the to-dos and blockers are figuring out the development timeline with engineering, write the detailed product spec. But ideally, this would be something that we could get up and running on the sooner side. There's so many fun things here. Each one of these things could be massive. There's so many exciting pieces here to work on. I had to get them out of my head and into one place. And so that's what this is.